We begin here. The situation remains volatile in Malvern, Johannesburg, as sporadic protests and the looting of stores continues. Several roads leading in and out of the area have been completely blocked off to traffic. Motorists as well as the public are advised to avoid the area as protesters are stoning and torching vehicles. Police are out in their numbers and are trying to contain the situation. Now, it's believed that the protesters are pro-Zuma supporters calling for his release. For more, we are now joined on the line by SABC reporter Sashin Naidoo, who has been monitoring events on the ground. Sashin, what's the latest where you are now? And perhaps please tell us where you are, because I know you've been moving around quite a bit.
Well, currently I am actually still moving around the city of Johannesburg, and the situation is still quite tense in many areas. And the most affected areas that I can confirm now is actually Malvern, Town, Denver, Hillbrow, Wynberg, the Alexandra area, as well as the Johannesburg CBD. So basically what's happening now is that sporadic protests are flaring up all around these areas. And, law enforcement is actually having quite a hard time to contain these protests, because these protesters have actually become being quite violent and looting stores, also torching quite a number of buildings as well as vehicles as they continue with their protests.
Now, Sashin, what are police telling you? I know that you're saying that they're currently having a hard time, but what is their plan? Are they arresting as they find protesters on the street?
Yes, well, basically police are out in their numbers, trying their utmost best. We can see quite a lot of police visibility, including, members from the Johannesburg Metro Police Department, as well as the South African Police Services, in all the affected areas. And speaking to police spokesperson, National Police spokesperson Brenda Moridili earlier today, she said that 62 suspects from both KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng who were involved in these violent protests have been arrested. We do know that, operations are still being conducted to try and quell the situation that is happening in all of these areas. And more arrests are expected to be made, throughout the day or for as long as the protests continue. But, police have heightened their visibility, and they are on high alert, in response to the incidents of criminality and violent protests that we are currently witnessing.
Now, obviously, journalists are not always the focus of the story, but we do know that two of our very own were attacked earlier in Johannesburg and Alexandra, to be specific. Talk to me about just how dangerous the situation is for you at the moment, Sashin.
Yes, that is correct. There are quite a number of the areas where the protests are actually getting a bit out of control. The police officers aren't allowing us to actually go in because of how violent the protesters are being, towards people coming into the area. And unfortunately, two of our colleagues were actually robbed in Alexandra earlier today, just after a live crossing on television. And, now as we stand, the situation is really tense, it's really volatile, and police are actually urging motorists not to attempt to go into these areas at this current time.
All right, Sashin Naidoo, that's where we have to leave it for this afternoon.